Chapter 30-37. Hee, you haven't seen me before, but I've seen you before. Otherwise, how could I recognize you? Wanyan Shursan said, then ignored her and ran to Fengjiu's side. He winked at Fengjiu and asked in a low voice, "What does this have to do with you? What does it have to do with me?" Fengjiu glared at him. "How can it have nothing to do with you? Although I don't know where you came from, or what your relationship with the Blue Star Immortal Sect is, you were entrusted to me by CK and Mu Xian. How can it have nothing to do with you?" He stared at her with a look that said, "Don't lie to me, I know you." Fengjiu's mouth twitched, but he couldn't be bothered to say more. He only said, "We've searched this area, but we haven't found any news of my sister. I think she must have been rescued by someone, and she's probably not here anymore. If she was rescued, I think we'll have news about her after a while." "Then what do you mean?" He looked at her and asked. Fengjiu said slowly, "The trail ends here. It's futile to continue searching, so it's better to wait for news." Listening to their conversation, the two mythical beasts squatting nearby looked at each other. They were a little confused when they heard about being rescued. They were only concerned about when their master would return. When could they evolve? When could they meet their master's other contracted beast? But why didn't their master contract them? As Fengjiu and the others were talking, the people under the tree were also discussing. "I think that if they can save us, they won't attack us. Also, they mentioned senior sister Wanyan, so she should be someone related to our immortal sect. Now that we're seriously injured, even if we can barely recover, we won't be able to fight if we encounter danger again. Why don't we follow them? This way we'll be safer." "Yes, I agree," the man with the cold expression replied. He looked at the two people talking in front of him. "But, will they refuse to let us go with them?" After all, the two women were a little hesitant and worried. "Whether we agree or not, we'll only know after we try. If we don't even dare to open our mouths, how will we have the opportunity to travel with them? If we miss this opportunity and lose our lives, won't we regret it?" Hearing this, the few of them pondered. After a while, they secretly made up their minds. The few men felt the chi in their bodies gradually stabilizing, so they helped each other to stand up. The two women hurriedly helped to support them. "Let's go. Let's go up and ask," several men said as they walked forward step by step. Fengjiu and Wanyan Shursan were talking. When they saw them, they stopped and looked at them. "Senior, we would like to travel with you. Please bring us along," a man said. His first words were not a question, but a request. He knew that if he asked in an inquiring tone, the other party would most likely reject him. But if he asked, they would at least consider it. This way they would have a better chance. Hearing this, Fengjiu looked at Wanyan Shursan. When Wanyan Shursan saw her looking at him, he said unhappily, "Why are you looking at me? Do we need you to make the decision? It's none of my business." He looked indifferent as he crossed his arms and looked away. Chapter 30-38. She didn't refuse, nor did she refuse. Instead, she asked, "How much are you willing to pay each of you for me to bring you along?" Hearing this, they were startled for a moment. They had never encountered such a situation before. The man who asked before paused for a moment, then followed Fengjiu's words and asked, "Senior, how much do you think is appropriate? Seeing that you are core disciples of the Immortal Sect, how about this? It's not much, just give me 1,000,000 gold coins each." She could use these gold coins to add more food to her purple gold twin deer. 1,000,000 gold coins? They were stunned. They didn't expect it to be so much. "What? You think it's too expensive?" Fengjiu glanced at them and said leisurely, "You should know that just those two fruits of yours are worth a lot of money. 1,000,000 gold coins per person to save your lives and help you keep those fruit. It's really a good deal. If it weren't for the fact that you are disciples of the Immortal Sect, I wouldn't have bothered to help." They hesitated for a moment. He was right. Not to mention other things, just the life origin fruit that took 500 years to bloom and 500 years to bear fruit was already not worth this price. Moreover, what about their safety? We agree. The cold man said and agreed. However, Senior must ensure that we can safely return to the immortal sect. If you follow me, as long as you don't cause trouble, there shouldn't be any problems. Fengjiu said and looked at Wanyan Shisan. What about you? Are you going back to your family or the immortal sect? Wanyan Shisan thought for a moment and said, I'll go with you to the immortal sect. Maybe if there's any news, her master will be the first to know. Right now there's no big matter in my family, so there's no need to rush back. Fengjiu nodded and waved her hand. A simple flying ship appeared in front of them. She gestured to the people, Get on! When they saw the spaceship, their eyes flashed slightly. After responding, they helped each other onto the spaceship. Wanyan Shisan stared at the flying ship and clicked his tongue. I don't even have such a big flying ship. Your flying ship should have been simplified and shrunk, right? I don't think it's only at this level. Fengjiu smiled. There aren't many people. A spaceship this big is enough. Any bigger and it will attract too much attention. That's true. Wanyan Shisan jumped up and found a place to sit down. Then, he saw that there was a lot of food on the ship. He couldn't help but walk to the place where the food was placed. He kept talking to himself. You two should shrink a little. Fengjiu glanced at the two tiger beasts. Yes, master. With a shake of their bodies, they shrunk to the size of a cat. They were inconspicuous, but also very similar to cats. At first glance, no one would think that they were two tiger beasts. After all, tigers and cats were originally of the same species. The group boarded the flying ship and went into the city. Along the way, the people on the flying ship only stared at the two of them and tried to find out their identities several times. However, they didn't manage to get anything out of them. Instead, the two of them figured out their own backgrounds. When they reached the city gate, Fengjiu found an inconspicuous place to keep the flying ship. She said to the few of them, Let's go. If you want to rest, you have to go into the city to rest. Chapter 30-39. How do you relax? Fengjiu glanced at him. Seeing his mysterious look, she couldn't help but be curious. Wanyan Shisan came over and was about to put his hand on her shoulder and put it on her back. But at this time, he remembered that she was a woman. He could not help but withdraw his hand and stared at her with a strange face. How many days has it been? I actually forgot that you're a woman. When these words came out, the people supporting her couldn't help but be startled. Their eyes fell on the figure in green at the same time, and their hearts were shocked. This person was a woman? Fengjiu glanced at him and said, I don't think you've treated me as a woman along the way. He who asked you to be so powerful that you don't seem like a woman. Wanyan Shisan grinned and said, Forget it, I originally wanted to bring you to see the world, but it seems like I can go by myself. Brothel? What? Wanyan Shisan glanced at her. Brothel? Do you think I'd go to that kind of place? Only those without status go to brothels. Those with status go to brothel now. Hearing this, she was slightly surprised. You've been there? Is there one in this city? Brothel of beauties can be found in every city. As long as there is a city, there will be a brothel of beauties. Tell me, how can there not be one here? Wanyan Shisan laughed loudly and winked at her. Moreover, the beauties here are all unique. But they don't use their beauty to attract people. Every one of them has exquisite skills. What do you think? Are you interested? Shall I bring you to see? Hearing this, Fengjiu said to the people behind him, You guys find an inn to stay in. Yes. The few of them responded. After thinking for a while, they said, Senior, we'll go to the biggest inn in the city. If the two seniors come back, we'll go directly to the biggest inn in the city. We'll prepare a room for the two seniors. Okay. Fengjiu responded and followed Wanyan Shisan to find out where Brothel of Beauties was. Behind her, two tiger beasts that looked like kittens followed closely. Their cute appearance attracted many women on the street to look. The two of them found out where Brothel of Beauties was. When they were led in, Wanyan Shursan looked at Fengjiu with a fawning expression. Go, pay the entrance fee. You have the nerve, make you go out, make women pay. Although she said that, she still followed that person in to go inside to pay. Behind her, Wanyan Shursan. I'm poor. I'm rich. As he said that, he looked around and saw many female cultivators, as well as some young ladies from families with veils on their faces. He couldn't help but ask in surprise, why are there so many women here today? The maidservant leading the way smiled. The two of you came at the right time. Tonight is our Brothel of Beauty's annual evaluation. Tonight, no matter if you're a female cultivator or a young lady from a noble family, you can participate in the evaluation. As long as you win, you'll receive a generous reward from Brothel of Beauties, and you'll also be known as the number one beauty. Haha, looks like we came at the right time today. We can actually see this? This money is worth it, it's worth it. He laughed loudly and strode inside. Chapter 30-40. After Fengjiu sat down, he listened to the beautiful sound of the zither coming from the center of the round stage. He felt that the sound of the zither was like pearls falling on a jade plate, melodious and pleasing to the ear. Even if he couldn't see the woman playing the zither, he could imagine the beauty of the woman from the beautiful sound of the zither. There were no less than 1,000 people in the building, but no one made any noise. Even if there were people talking, they only lowered their voices and whispered. Hearing the sound of the zither and looking at the scene in the building, Fengjiu couldn't help but praise. This place is really not bad. Not bad, there was beauty to admire, and there was such a beautiful zither sound. Even though there were many people, the atmosphere here was very good. There was no noise or clamor, it was very suitable to come here and relax. Let me tell you, if you are judged as the number one beauty in Beauty House, it will spread everywhere. Because the evaluation had not started yet, there were only beauties playing the zither in the building, so Wanyan Shursan gestured for her to follow, and brought her to the other side. Look here, there is a name on it. It will show which city, which family's daughter, or the woman in Beauty House is judged as the number one beauty. Once these beauties are known, many aristocratic families will come to propose marriage. It can be said that once a person's beauty is judged, the imperial family's grandson, duke, marquis, and minister will want to marry her. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled. No wonder there are so many women competing. Hee, but I feel that if you participate, you will definitely be able to take first place. He winked at her and smiled. How about it? Do you want me to help you sign up? Not interested. She shook her head. She really wasn't interested in this kind of evaluation. This evaluation is not only about beauty, but also about beauty, talent, strength, and wisdom. Let's go. It will probably start soon. So many people have signed up, but not everyone can go on stage. Those who can go on stage are considered very outstanding. As he spoke, he brought Fengjiu back to the front row and sat down. Following the appearance of the beauties on stage, the talent competition also began. The two listened and watched from below the stage, and felt that the women on the round stage were very pleasing to the eye, elegant and charming. They used light veils to cover their faces, and their clothes couldn't be seen. They could only faintly see their figures, but even so, it was enough to make the people in the building very excited. The two tiger beasts lay in Fengjiu's arms, and while they were resting, the song and dance started. The lights on the stage changed, and the light in the building dimmed, causing everyone's eyes and attention on the round stage. The round stage. Looking Fengjiu's, who was in red in the forest, an unconscious beauty's twos they s's in the forest. A while ago, there was a beauty in red who was seriously injured and fainted. That's this, the male tiger whispered. Chapter 30:41. Master didn't say he was looking for the red-clothed beauty. It said in a low voice, but it didn't dare to say more. It just said, and I didn't know Master was looking for the red-clothed beauty. Fengjiu couldn't help but touch his forehead and asked, then what happened? What happened to the red-clothed beauty? Was she saved by someone? When I noticed her, she was being chased by several evil cultivators. At that time, she was seriously injured and looked like she was about to fall. At that time, I thought that if she fell, I would drag her back to the cave. Who knew that when she couldn't hold on and fell, a man in white appeared and saved her? A man in white. Fengjiu was slightly startled. Yes, a human man in white. That man was very cold and his aura was very strong. I didn't dare to approach him. At that time, I heard those evil cultivators exclaim and say something about Sword Master Xiao Yao. Then, they were killed by that man in white. Speaking of this, it shrunk its neck. That man also found me at that time and glanced at me. I saw that man was very dangerous, so I ran away first. Sword Master Xiao Yao? Wanyan Shursan whispered. Isn't that the sect master of the Xiao Yao sect? It is said that that person's whereabouts have always been erratic. If he is not in closed-door cultivation, he will disappear. How could he go to the forest and save Qianhua? Sect master of the Xiao Yao sect? Isn't that an old man? Fengjiu asked. No one knows how old that sword master Xiao Yao is. However, one thing is certain. He is definitely not within 100 years old. That person's strength is unfathomable. Furthermore, he rarely shows himself. Even I have only seen him from afar once many years ago in a large gathering. Wanyan Shursan said and breathed a sigh of relief. If he was saved by that sword master Xiao Yao, then there is no need to worry. That sword master Xiao Yao is a righteous person. Qianhua will be fine with him. That's good. Fengjiu smiled and rubbed the tiger beast's head. If you had told us earlier, we wouldn't have to worry. While the two were chatting below the stage, the competition on the stage also continued, and gradually entered the final segment. The two saw a beautiful woman in her 30s come forward and say to the crowd, "Ladies and gentlemen, everyone has just appreciated the various talents. Next up is the competition of beauty. Today, not only are there beauties from our building, there are also some young ladies from aristocratic families. Who will be this year's #1 beauty? Let's wait and see." As soon as she finished speaking, she reached out and clapped her hands 3 times. The bead curtain on the round stage was rolled up, and the last 12 women stood on the stage in order. They still wore veils on their faces, and in their hands were the musical instruments from the previous competition. Some were dressed luxuriously, some were dressed simply, and some, Why is there a woman dressed like that standing on the stage? For a moment, everyone's gazes fell on a woman in a shabby dress with a piece of cloth on her face as a veil. All of them were somewhat dissatisfied. What they wanted to see were beauties. Why was there a woman who looked like a beggar on the stage? Moreover, she had become one of the 12 people? The other women on the stage either distanced themselves from her or avoided her. It was as if they were afraid of touching her. However, that woman stood there quietly with a zither in her arms. She was not frightened, nor was she flustered. It was as if the person everyone was talking about was not her. Chapter 30:42. She's not weak either. She's young, but she's already at the peak of the golden elixir realm. She's comparable to the daughters of the aristocratic families. That's not right. Just this calmness and composure is something that the daughters of the aristocratic families can't compare to. Wanyan Shursan said, stroking his chin and chuckling, "I wonder how she looks?" Fengjiu watched with a slight smile on her lips. She looked at that woman, then her gaze swept past the other women, waiting for the moment when they removed their veils. At this moment, she couldn't help but be curious. What would that woman look like? "All right, everyone. Our beauty's restaurant has never cared about background. As long as you have the ability, you can participate. This is the rule of the beauty's restaurant. Everyone, look at this beauty. Whether it's her figure, temperament, or cultivation, they're all top-notch. If she were to change into a luxurious dress, would you still think that she's a beauty? The woman in her 30s covered her mouth and smiled, saying, "Next, let them remove their veils and reveal their faces." In addition to the 10 judges in our restaurant, the guests sitting in the first row can each cast a vote. As she spoke, she retreated to the side and gestured for the first woman to remove her veil and reveal her face to the crowd. This was the last segment of the competition. It was also an extremely important segment to determine whether a person was a beauty or not. Even the daughters of aristocratic families could only remove their veils here. After the first woman removed her veil, she raised her head confidently and looked forward. The women behind her also removed their veils one by one. Every time a woman's veil was removed, it was met with a wave of cheers from below. Until the last woman, who was the woman in plain clothes, removed her veil. In an instant there was a wave of gasps from below the stage. Some people even lost their self-control and stood up. Their eyes were fixed on the stunningly beautiful woman on the stage. The woman was dressed in a plain and shabby gray dress. Compared to the other women, she really looked like a beggar on the street. However, the moment she removed her veil, her exquisite facial features and unique temperament made people unable to take their eyes off her. Especially the enchanting red flower in the corner of her left eye, which added a bit of mystery and coldness to her. Beauty number 12 is really beautiful. Not bad. She's even more beautiful than the Jade Beauty in the Beauty's restaurant last year. It's a pity that she's only wearing a shabby dress. If she were to change into a gorgeous dress, how magnificent would she be? Who is this woman? Is she also from this city? Why haven't I heard of her before? I'm going to propose marriage to this beauty and bring her home. Haha, that's right. She's a beauty at the peak of the golden elixir realm. She's definitely qualified to enter my Chin family. For a moment, the people below the stage were talking about it. They were already planning to find someone to propose marriage to that girl and bring her home. Listening to the words of the gorgeously dressed men below, the woman on the stage didn't even change her expression. She just stood there quietly, narrowed her eyes, and hugged the zither in her arms tightly. Chapter 3043. What's interesting? Wanyan Shursan asked. He looked at the woman holding the zither and praised. The flower at the corner of this woman's eyes adds a lot of charm. It's very unique. Fengjiu smiled and did not answer. He just looked at the crowd's evaluation. In the end, the woman holding the zither won first place. "Miss, what's your name?" The woman in her 30s on the stage asked with a smile. When she participated, she only took a number and did not write down her name. "Where's my reward?" The woman did not say her name and only asked. "It's here." The woman in the building asked someone to bring the reward and said with a smile, "There's a third-rank Qi nourishing pill, a spiritual medicine, and 1,000 gold coins." The woman took the things and put them in her sleeves, saying, "Thank you." Then, she held the zither and walked off the stage. "Hey miss, your name." The woman did not even leave her name and left. Many people let the guards follow her, wanting to see what family the woman was from. Fengjiu patted the 2 tiger beasts' heads and said, "Go! Let's go and see." The 2 tiger beasts jumped out of her arms and quickly went into the crowd and left. Seeing this, Wanyan Shursan felt a little strange. Why did you let them follow that woman? Don't tell me you're really interested in her. You're a woman. Fengjiu did not say anything. He just watched the women on the stage leave. In the end, the woman in the beauty building played a song for the crowd. Some people even went on the stage to compete with the beauties. The scene gradually became lively, but he was not in the mood to continue watching. "It's getting late. Let's go back," Fengjiu said. He stood up and walked out. This beauty building should be a place to gather information. It was mainly women and gathered all kinds of people. Moreover, they were scattered in various cities. It seemed that this force was also very big. But who was it? After leaving the beauty building, Wanyan Shursan stretched and said, I originally wanted to book a room in the building and call 2 beauties to serve me. I didn't expect it to become a competition. I don't even know the name of the most beautiful one. Hey, why do I feel like I lost out tonight? On the way back to the inn, he was still talking about it. Fengjiu could not bear it and said directly, How about I find 2 beauties to serve you tonight? I'm not a person who likes beauties. I just think. He wanted to say more, but when he saw Fengjiu's glance, he could not help but swallow his words. This little girl's gaze was enough to scare people to death. He really didn't know which man could stand her. Senior, you're back? Have you eaten? I'll ask the waiter to prepare some food for you. The 2 women saw the 2 of them come in and hurriedly greeted them. Send them to the room, Fengjiu said. He walked upstairs and asked, Which room am I in? The first room on the left. The woman then said to Wanyan Shursan, Senior is in the second room. After seeing the 2 of them enter their rooms, the 2 women could not help but look at each other. They asked the waiter to bring them food and then went to the other 2 rooms to see their senior. Chapter 30-44. The tiger beast paused, then continued, But those people were shaken off by that woman, but they didn't discover me. It raised its head proudly and wagged its tail. You stayed there to keep watch, then came back to report? Fengjiu looked at it amusedly, reaching out to pat its head. Yes, master. That woman used the money she won to buy medicine. She also gave the medicine she won to an old man. However, that old man's aura was very weak. He should be dying soon. Also, that woman went back and wiped the flowers off her face. Then, she disguised herself as a man. Let's go. Let's go take a look, Fengjiu said, opening the door and walking out. Only then did she and the tiger beast go out, and Wanyan Shursan sneakily followed behind them. However, they didn't walk far before Fengjiu discovered them. She stopped and looked back, saying, If you want to follow me, then walk faster. Why are you sneaking behind me? The corner of Wanyan Shursan's mouth twitched, and he walked out from the shadows. You can discover me like this? You don't see the shadow on the ground? She glanced at him from the corner of her eyes, then looked towards the shadow on the ground. Hearing this, Wanyan Shursan chuckled. I'm getting on in years, and many things aren't as good as before. Look at how careless I can be when following someone. He smiled embarrassedly and walked to Fengjiu's side. But where are you going? Don't tell me you're really going to that beauty's place? Fengjiu didn't say much, and only followed the tiger beast forward, passing through the bustling streets, and walking towards the slums. They came to a large tree, then leaped onto the tree, and under the cover of the large tree, they looked at a dilapidated house not far in front of them. In the dim light, a man dressed in gray was helping an old woman to press on her acupuncture points. There was a scar at the corner of the man's eye, and this scar ruined his delicate face. However, if they had seen this person dressed as a woman tonight, they probably wouldn't have thought that this person in front of them was the woman who won the title of number 1 beauty. Right now, she was dressed as a man, and her gray clothes were simple and shabby. Her chest was flat and her waist was wide, and her face was sallow, and that scar, no matter how they looked at it, was so inconspicuous. So there's a scar on her face. She really does look ugly, no wonder she didn't dare to leave her name, Wanyan Shursan said. He thought that he would see a woman dressed as a man, but he didn't expect to see a woman dressed as a man. Thinking, he looked at her and looked at Fengjiu. This woman is quite clever, and like you, she likes to dress as a man. Clever. Fengjiu smiled slightly, looking at the woman dressed as a man, and said, dressing as a woman, using tricks to cover up the flaws on her face, and winning the reward of Beauty's house, and being able to get away from Beauty's house and those people following her, This person is not just a little clever. Her voice paused, and her eyes flashed, and she said, moreover, not every woman likes to dress as a man. Most of the time, it's just to avoid trouble, and to protect themselves. Hearing this, Wanyan Shursan looked at her and asked, then why did you let the two divine beasts follow her? Chapter 30:45. Wanyan Shursan stared blankly for a moment before he saw her jump down from the tree and stride towards the house. Behind her was a black and white tiger beast. Seeing this, Wanyan Shursan mumbled to himself and followed her into the house without any ambition. In the house, the woman helped the old woman massage her and said, I'll use my spiritual energy to help you unblock your meridians. Take the chi nurturing pill later, and you should be able to get out of bed and walk around in a few days. Miss, I'm just a servant. You don't have to do so much for me. I know that I won't be able to live for much longer. You won those pills with great difficulty. You should keep them for yourself. I won't take them. The old woman on the bed spoke in a weak voice. Her eyes were swollen and her legs were white and swollen. She looked as if she was about to die. The woman only calmly said, I don't need those pills. Don't think about anything else right now. Taking care of your body is the most important thing. As she spoke, she glanced at the little cat that was squatting by the bed and looking at her. She didn't know where this little cat had come from, but from the looks of it, it didn't look like an ordinary cat. Furthermore, it seemed to understand her words. Whenever she spoke, it would listen to her. Miss, I've dragged you down. Cough, cough. As the old woman spoke, she suddenly coughed. Blood flowed from the corner of her mouth, and her breathing gradually weakened. Seeing this, the woman quickly took out the chi nurturing pill and was about to feed it to her. However, the old woman pulled up the blanket and covered her mouth. She weakly said, Miss, I won't eat it. I won't eat it. You should keep it. I'm about to die. It's a waste to eat something so precious. I won't eat it. I'll leave it for Mississippi. You'll die if you don't eat it. The woman's voice rose slightly, her eyes filled with anxiety. It's good that I'm dead. If I'm dead, miss, you won't have to stay here with this old woman. If I'm dead, miss, you can leave in peace. Miss, when I'm dead, you should go home. That's your father after all. Go home and he'll take care of you. Eat the chi nurturing pill, the woman said as she removed the blanket from the old woman's mouth. Chi nourishing pills can't save her life. Fengjiu's voice slowly drifted out. She was dressed in green as she walked in. She looked at the girl and said, You should know that her lifespan is almost up. Even a chi nourishing pill cannot save her. Master. The tiger beast man squatting by the bed called out happily and quickly came to her feet. Hearing the kitten speak, the woman's expression changed slightly. She looked at the Fengjiu and asked coldly, Who are you people? What are you doing here? Fengjiu chuckled and said, Don't be nervous, I don't have any bad intentions. It's just that my residence is short of people, and I happen to see that Miss is intelligent, meticulous, and cautious in handling matters, so I thought to ask if Miss is interested in working in my residence? Unfortunately, I overheard your conversation outside. It seems that this lady is a young lady? As she spoke, she paused for a moment before continuing with a smile. That's how it should be. After all, Mrs. Zither's skills can be said to be unparalleled, and your appearance is not something that ordinary people can compare to. How could you possibly be a girl from an ordinary family? Chapter 30:46. Don't worry, I said I have no ill intentions, Fengjiu said with a smile. She glanced at the old woman and said to the woman, It seems that I came at a bad time. How about this? Think about it carefully. If you have nowhere to go in the future, you can come to the Feng family in Four Corner City to find me. My surname is Feng. With that, she didn't stay any longer. Instead, she turned and walked out. Seeing this, Wanyan Shursan touched his chin and walked out in a daze. When he was outside, he asked with some confusion, You said that. You're leaving just like that? Didn't you say you liked that woman? Fengjiu glanced back at him and said with a smile, What? Do you think I'll rob her? Even if you don't have to force her, you should at least say something enticing to let her know what benefits there are for her to follow you. At the very least, you should tell her that you're a woman, so that she won't think you're after her beauty. Wanyan Shursan rolled his eyes at her and said, You just said that the manor is short of people and told her to come to the Feng family in Four Corner City to find you when she has nowhere to go in the future. Do you think she will go? In my opinion, you came here for nothing tonight. Fengjiu chuckled and shook her head. Do you think she really got rid of the people from the beauty pavilion? Hearing this, Wanyan Shursan was startled and asked, You mean, the people from the beauty pavilion are still watching her? But didn't they say she got rid of them? How? Before he finished speaking, he paused. Yes, the forces of the beauty pavilion were distributed in various cities, and there were people in charge of the beauty pavilion. In addition to beauties, there were also many masters. As long as they investigated, how could they not find out that this woman was hiding here? Seeing her walk back and forth, he couldn't help but quickly follow and stare at her with a strange expression. This evildoer, she wouldn't be waiting for that woman to have no way out before she made her move, right? Walking on the street, because the night was getting darker, there were not many pedestrians on the street. Only some vendors were packing up. She said, Now that you have news of my sister, why don't you go back and report it? Do you plan to keep following me? Keep following you? Don't forget that they were the ones who asked you to follow me. Wanyan Shursan sneered. He stared at her and asked, We've known each other for so long, but you still haven't told me who CK and Mu Xian are to you. Why did the two of them keep telling me to take good care of you? Do they know how perverted you are? The two of them are my disciples, Fengjiu said, glancing at him. Seeing the shock on his face, he asked with a smile, What? You don't believe me? I don't. Wanyan Shursan shook his head and said, Both of them are heavenly gods. How can they be your disciples? Don't be so ridiculous. Don't ask me if you don't believe me. You won't believe me anyway. She yawned and said, I'm tired. I need to go back and have a good sleep. If I don't leave my room tomorrow, don't disturb me. As soon as she finished speaking, her figure flashed and disappeared from the street. The two tiger beasts were stunned for a moment, but they quickly followed her, leaving Wanyan Shursan walking alone on the street. Chapter 3047. The next morning, two female disciples sent breakfast to their senior brothers. Seeing that their bodies were much better after a day of rest, they were relieved and smiled. Have the two seniors woken up yet? A male disciple asked. They haven't woken up yet. They haven't moved, but they've hung a sign on the door, telling us not to disturb them. The female disciple with the surname Mu said. Hearing this, several people paused for a moment. Someone asked, Who are these two people? I don't know. I've never seen them before. They shouldn't be from our sect. The two women said. Both of them look very strong, especially the senior in green. Yesterday, the senior said that she's a woman? One of them hesitated and looked at the others. Do you think that the senior in green is really a woman? Can a woman be that strong? I can't tell. But since that senior said so, it shouldn't be wrong. The few of them were talking. Seeing that the cold-looking man didn't speak, one of them asked, Senior Brother Qin, what are you thinking about? The man looked over and glanced at them. Then, he shifted his gaze to the window and said, When I woke up this morning, I released a signal. If there are any disciples of our immortal sect nearby, they will rush over. Later, when you go downstairs, take a look and pay more attention. Aren't we following the two seniors? If the two seniors find out that we're secretly contacting other disciples of the sect, won't they be angry? One of them said worriedly. Probably not. After all, we're not contacting other people. We're just disciples of the sect. All right then. I'll go downstairs and take a look. One of the women said and left first. Junior Sister Mu, You should leave too. Pay more attention to the movements of those two. The man with the surname Qin instructed. Got it, Senior Brother Qin. The woman replied and left. Wanyan Shursan slept until noon. When he woke up and washed up, he realized that Fengjiu was still asleep. He wanted to wake her up, but when he thought of her instructions last night, he shrugged and ignored her. He just asked the waiter to serve some food and wine. However, he was surprised to see that the disciples of the Immortal Sect were sitting on the first floor and eating. Among them, there were 2 disciples wearing the robes of the Blue Star Immortal Sect. Senior is awake? The few people downstairs greeted Wanyan Shursan when they saw him. I'm awake. Wanyan Shursan replied and nodded at them. Then, he followed them downstairs and sat at a table. Senior, these 2 people are disciples of the Immortal Sect. They just happened to be in this city. A woman said as she looked at the 2 disciples on the side. Senior Wanyan. When the 2 of them saw Wanyan 13, they immediately bowed respectfully. You know me? Wanyan Shursan's T. Shursan. As they were not core disciples, they were not as strong as the people around them. Therefore, they could only address Wanyan Qianhua as Shursan and not Senior Sister. They paused and one of them asked, Senior Wanyan must have come here to ask about Shursan. I wonder if Senior has any news about our Shursan? Chapter 30-48. When they heard this, surprise flashed across their eyes. There's news about Uncle Master Wanyan? There is, but why should I tell you? Wanyan Shursan glanced at them and poured himself a glass of wine. He looked as if he was going to piss them off, and the disciples were stunned. Why didn't he tell them? They wouldn't do anything to Uncle Master Wanyan. Waiter, are my dishes ready? Why are they so slow? Wanyan Shursan shouted impatiently. Coming. The waiter answered and brought out the dishes. He put the dishes on the table and said to Wanyan Shursan, Sir, please eat these 2 dishes first. The others will be served soon. After saying this, the waiter left. Wanyan Shursan picked up his chopsticks and knocked on the table. He glanced at them and said unhappily, Why are you all staring at me? What are you doing that you shouldn't be doing? When they heard this, they returned to their rooms to rest and recuperate. As for Fengjiu, she didn't leave until evening. However, the 2 tiger beasts behind her didn't follow her. When Wanyan Shursan saw that the 2 tiger beasts had disappeared, he asked, You sent them out? Yes. Fengjiu replied. She went to the first floor and ordered a few dishes and a bottle of wine. While waiting for the dishes to be served, she sensed that someone was looking at her. She followed the gaze and saw that it was 2 men wearing the robes of Immortal Sect disciples. She raised her eyebrows and asked, What's up with those 2? Where did they come from? They said that they happened to meet them in the city. Wanyan Shursan smiled and looked at Fengjiu with a faint smile. I reckon that those people were curious about your identity. I heard that they were disciples who were training outside and hadn't returned to the Immortal Sect for a long time. So, when they met those 2 disciples, they must have asked about you. Oh, I see. She nodded, indicating that she understood. Judging from the 2 men's expressions, they probably couldn't recognize her. After all, she had disguised her appearance and wasn't wearing a dazzling red dress. Even CK and Mu Xian wouldn't be able to recognize her if they were here. In the room upstairs, a few people looked at the 2 disciples and asked, Who is that Qing Yi? Do you recognize him? The 2 disciples shook their heads and said, I've never seen him before. I can't recognize him. Impossible, one of the men said. After thinking for a while, he continued, That green-robed senior must have changed her appearance. When I heard them talking, that Senior Wanyan said that she was a woman. I don't know. I can't recognize it. The 2 shook their heads. Upon hearing this, the man with the surname Qin asked with a solemn expression, Did anything major happen in the sect after we left? Something big. When the two heard this, they hesitated and didn't know what to say. Of course, something big had happened during this period of time. Furthermore, it was something that had shaken the entire sect. Apart from the disciples who were training outside, it could be said that almost everyone in the sect knew about it. Speak. Stop hemming and hawing, he said coldly. Chapter 30-49. Hearing this, they were slightly startled. Venerable CK and Venerable Mu Xian lost? And they even acknowledged the winner as their master? Yes, and at that time it was 2 against 2. Hence, the two of them had 2 different masters. The disciple said, Who are they? Everyone knew that Venerable CK and Venerable Mu Xian were the strongest venerables in the immortal sect. They were divine realm experts, so how could they lose to others? One is Fengjiu, and the other is Xianyuan Mose, the disciple said carefully in a low voice. They didn't dare to call the masters of CK and Mu Xian by their names. One of them likes to wear red, while the other likes to wear black. I heard that the one in red is a woman, and she's also an alchemy venerable. They're a pair, and they came down from the immortal ascension stairs. Without a guide, one can only reach the top of the immortal ascension stairs with the strength of an immortal emperor. They were able to defeat Venerable CK and Venerable Mu Xian, so they're not ordinary. The few of them sighed. They were very curious about the 2 people. However, none of them thought that the woman in red was the same as Feng 9. After all, they had never heard them call Feng 9 by her name ever since they started following them. They went downstairs and saw that she had finished eating, so they asked, Senior, when are we leaving? They had been resting the whole day. If they had taken the airship, they could have recuperated on the airship, so they wouldn't waste time here. Are you in a hurry? Fengjiu glanced at them. Hearing this, the few of them were slightly stunned. One of them saw her tone and said, There's no hurry. We just thought that if we were to set off, we could pack our things and make arrangements in advance. If Senior has something to deal with here, you can go ahead and do it. Who told you that I have something to do? Fengjiu looked at the man playfully. When the man's face turned red and he became nervous, she smiled and said, Aren't you injured? Take a good rest here. We haven't had much rest along the way. How can we just stay for one night in such a good inn? Her voice was neither fast nor slow, with a hint of a smile and teasing. Moreover, I don't even need to pay to stay in such a good inn. It's worth it. What's the harm in staying for 2 more days? Hearing this, the corners of everyone's mouths twitched. So she didn't leave because this inn was the most expensive and largest in the city, and she didn't have to pay for it? What kind of reason was this? Indeed, there were many eccentric experts. At this moment, one of the tiger beasts rushed in like the wind. Like a flash of light, it pounced into Fengjiu's arms. Seeing this, the others couldn't help but be surprised. Was it those 2 divine beasts? Just as they were about to see what the 2 inconspicuous divine beasts were up to, they saw the green-robed senior glance at them. Seeing this, they tactfully bowed and took their leave. Master, that old woman couldn't make it and died this morning. That woman was caught by the people from Beauty Restaurant when she was about to leave. The tiger beast lay in Fengjiu's arms and whispered. Wanyan Shursan heard this and couldn't help but glance at Fengjiu. This girl had really calculated it. But what was she going to do now? Chapter 30-50. Yes. The tiger beast responded and leaped outside. Just let the 2 of them go? Will it work? Wanyan Shursan asked. He felt that although the 2 were mythological beasts, they were no match for the experts of Beauty's restaurant. Fengjiu drank the wine and said, Let's wait and see first. There's no rush. If you want to subdue a person, you have to wait until she has no way out. What's more, that woman is a little arrogant, so it's good to wear her down. My sister, do you want to go to the Carefree sect to take a look? She looked at Wanyan Shursan and asked. In fact, there are also children of my Wanyan family in the Carefree sect. After learning the news, I have already sent a message to my family and asked them to send someone to take a look. As for Master Qianhua, I have also sent a message to her. You don't have to worry about this. Wanyan Shursan said, and then said, by the way, I also told the people of Blue Star Immortal Sect that the disciples upstairs are with us. They have already sent someone to pick us up. Feng Jiu played with the wine glass, and no one knew what he was thinking. When Wanyan Shursan saw this, he grinned and asked, we have gained something from this trip. In any case, I am your 13th uncle. Tell me, when we go back, shouldn't you invite me to your house for a meal? Hearing this, Feng Jiu glanced at him and said coldly, you are my sister's 13th uncle. My sister and I have become sworn sisters, but I don't recognize the other members of the Wanyan family as relatives. Sai, forget about others, but we have fought side by side. I am also an elder. It's not too much for you to call me 13th uncle. Feng Jiu looked at him up and down and said with a playful smile, 13th uncle? Sai. What are you sigh about? Look at you, how do you look like an elder? You want me to call you 13th uncle? I don't think it's possible. She shook her head with a look of disgust. The corner of Wanyan Shursan's mouth twitched. He looked at her speechlessly, but he didn't hesitate and stood up. All right then. I don't expect anything. I know you will definitely go out later, so I will go out by myself. He stood up, stretched and walked out and asked, by the way, do you need me to buy something for you when I go shopping? Feng Jiu looked at him and said with a smile, then I'll have to trouble you to bring me some pastries. No problem. He waved his hand and walked out of the inn. Not long after he left, Feng Jiu also left, leaving only a few disciples in the inn's main building who were looking out of the window. And you. And the name suits you very well. Even the beauties in my beauty's pavilion can't compare to your zither skills. The middle-aged man's voice paused. He looked at the scar at the corner of her eyes and eyebrows with pity. What a pity, what a pity. A good beauty like you has such a flaw. I didn't expect that the people in my beauty pavilion would make an error in judgment and call you the number one beauty. What a shame to my beauty pavilion. What do you want? She asked coldly. There was no fear in her eyes. She didn't struggle because she knew that even if she struggled, it would be futile. Everyone here was stronger than her. Chapter 30:51. He looked at her and stared at the scar between her eyebrows, saying, with your looks it's impossible for you to appear in front of others, so you can only be a guqin player behind the scenes. From today onwards, you're a member of our beauty house. He paused and narrowed his eyes with a hint of danger. However, in order to punish you for scheming against our beauty house, we're going to imprint a slave mark on your face. I'm sure you don't have any objections, right? As he spoke, he waved his hand and signaled for someone to bring over the slave mark. As long as this mark was imprinted on her face, it would be branded as a slave mark that would never be removed for the rest of her life. Seeing a cultivator bring over the slave mark, Qin Xian's eyes finally showed a trace of panic. You have no right to do this. I can return the prize to you. Hee. Do you think our beauty house is short of something like that? The middle-aged man sneered and stared at her. This is the price you have to pay for scheming against our beauty house. I want you to know that there are some people you can't provoke or scheme against. Seeing the middle-aged man take the slave mark from another cultivator and approach her step by step, she couldn't help but struggle. However, she couldn't break free from the cultivator's restraints as she was forcefully held down. You also have a scar on your face, so I'll imprint a slave mark on your forehead. As the middle-aged man spoke, he lifted a strand of her hair that had fallen to one side and was about to imprint the mark on her forehead. Roar! The tiger beast that had been squatting on the fence for a long time suddenly roared, and its small body pounced down. It raised its sharp claws and clawed at the middle-aged man holding the mark. Hiss! The middle-aged man gasped in pain and blood seeped out of his hand, causing the mark in his hand to fall to the ground. Just as he retreated, the tiger beast waved its sharp claws at the cultivators holding down Qin Xian. Seeing an opportunity, Qin Xian broke free from their restraints and quickly got up and retreated to the side. She looked at the tiger beast in surprise and recognized the kitten-like pet beast as the man in green robes. But didn't they leave already? Why was this kitten still following her here? Where did this little beast come from? Kill it for me. The middle-aged man held his injured hand and ordered fiercely. In an instant, the surrounding cultivators surrounded them, forcing the man and beast into a corner. Looking at the humans who were walking towards it with weapons in hand, the tiger beast let out a low roar. In the next moment, its body rapidly expanded and returned to its original powerful size. Roar! A beastly roar came out and shook the entire beauty pavilion. Everyone in the city heard the beastly roar. After all, the roar of a divine beast was very loud. Almost as soon as the roar came out, the cultivators in the small city were startled, especially some small pets and small beasts. They all trembled and hid in the bosom of their masters, or trembled and knelt on the ground. God, divine beast! The middle-aged man was startled. He quickly retreated and looked at the mythological beast that had suddenly returned to its original form. His eyes widened in shock. Hiss! It really was a divine beast. Moreover, it was a tiger-type divine beast of the sixth order. Where did he come from? Chapter 3052. Quick! Capture this divine beast. I'll reward you handsomely, he said excitedly as he stepped back, allowing the other cultivators to step forward. However, at this moment, an untimely voice sounded in everyone's ears. How lively! Hearing this voice, the tiger beast that was baring its fangs and flashing its claws and was about to pounce forward suddenly became as docile as a kitten. It wagged its tail and came to the corner of the wall, looking at its master who was sitting on the wall with excitement in its eyes. Qin Xian was also startled when she heard this voice. She looked at the man in green who had suddenly appeared and her eyes moved slightly. Who are you? The middle-aged man's face darkened and he raised his hand to signal everyone to step back. When he saw the divine beast sitting docilely in the corner where the man was sitting, his heart couldn't help but tremble. Fengjiu, who was sitting on the wall, glanced at him and said with a smile that wasn't a smile, You want to touch my people and capture my little beast, but you still ask who I am? Your people? Your little beast? Hee, this woman is a resident of this city, and has lived here for only a few years. This divine beast hasn't been contracted yet, so how can you say that it's yours? The middle-aged man sneered. When he saw that Fengjiu was alone and was about to order his men to attack, he caught a glimpse of a black and white kitten in her arms from the corner of his eye. His heart couldn't help but jump. Another divine beast? The one just now also looked like this. I have another one here. I wonder if it's also yours? Fengjiu smiled and patted the tiger beast in her arms. The tiger beast lying in her arms jumped down and with a flash of light, it returned to its original size. The divine beast's body was huge and strong, and the tiger beast's body was even more majestic and domineering. When these two fierce tigers with white fur and black tiger stripes stood in front of them, the divine beast's powerful aura filled the air and shocked them greatly. A divine beast was already extremely rare, let alone a tiger beast that was the king of beasts. And there were two of them. Looking at the two tiger beasts, the middle-aged man was so excited that his eyes turned red and greed emerged in his eyes. Qin Xian saw the greed in the middle-aged man's eyes and couldn't help but worry. She couldn't bear to let a completely unrelated young master offend a power like the beauty pavilion for her, so she immediately said, Young master, leave quickly. The beauty brothel's influence is enormous, far beyond what young master can imagine. Young master, please don't get into trouble for Qin Xian. Hearing this, Fengjiu looked at Qin Xian and smiled. He didn't say anything. Instead, he looked at the middle-aged man and asked jokingly, "Did you see it clearly? Are these two divine beasts yours?" The middle-aged man's eyes flashed with killing intent. He stared at Fengjiu and said gloomily, "It's a divine beast that sneaked out of our beauty house. You brat! How dare you covet our beauty pavilion's divine beast? Someone come! Kill this brat on the spot!" Qin Xian was shocked and her face turned pale. However, when she raised her head to look at the azure-robed man, she saw that he was still sitting leisurely on the wall. Kill him on the spot? That's a good idea. Chapter 3053. What are you doing? Quickly let him go. Let him go and you can still live. Otherwise, only death awaits you. The surrounding cultivators shouted, all of them staring at Fengjiu, their swords drawn, ready to strike at any time. However, Fengjiu glanced at them indifferently, tightening his grip on the middle-aged man's neck. "You think I don't dare to kill you?" Her voice was slow and gentle, but it made people shiver. "If you kill me, you won't be able to live either." The middle-aged man was not afraid, as if he was sure that she would not dare to kill him. Even though his throat was being choked, making it hard for him to breathe, he still forced out each word. Fengjiu raised an eyebrow, and with a wave of his sleeve, Swallow Cloud roared and leapt out from the void, like a king standing in the middle, looking down on the surrounding cultivators. When his sharp and bloodthirsty gaze landed on the two tiger beasts, he paused. Hiss! Super, sacred beast. This is a sacred beast. Heavens! I actually saw a sacred beast. There really is a sacred beast in this world. The cultivators gasped in shock. The sacred beast's aura caused their legs to tremble, and they could not help but retreat. In this small backyard, there were two sacred beasts and a sacred beast. Even if they wanted to destroy the Beauty's restaurant, no one would be able to stop them. When he saw another sacred beast appear, the middle-aged man started to panic. His face turned pale, and his arms hung limply. Because of this, his entire body was lifted up by Fengjiu, as if he was choking on his breath. If there were two sacred beasts, perhaps he could still try to take this man down, but with another sacred beast, he knew that he had offended someone he should not have offended. What kind of person would have two sacred beasts and a sacred beast? How could he offend such a person? How could he give the order to kill him? Thinking of this, his face turned ashen. Young master, please spare my life," he said with difficulty, his eyes filled with fear. "Spare your life? Don't you think it's too late?" Fengjiu tightened her grip, and with a crack, she broke his neck. With a groan, the middle-aged man stopped breathing on the spot. His eyes were wide open in fear as he stared ahead. Fengjiu raised his hand and threw the man away. Bang! The body was thrown in the middle of the yard, but no one dared to step forward. They just stepped back step by step. Two divine beasts, one sacred beast, in addition to this person's unfathomable strength, who would dare to go forward to seek death. Qin Xian stared blankly at the azure-robed man. She didn't expect that he would actually kill the middle-aged man. That man was the manager of the beauty house. Now that he killed the middle-aged man, she was afraid that the people of the beauty house would not let him go. "Young master." An old voice sounded at this moment. When the guards in the courtyard heard this voice, they couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Fengjiu looked towards the direction of the voice and saw a few old men walking out quickly. When they saw the body in the courtyard, their eyes narrowed and their eyebrows furrowed. "Young master, why did you kill people in our beauty house?" As they spoke, the old man's eyes quietly looked towards the two sacred beasts and the sacred beast. Even though he had heard the guards mention it, he was still shocked. Chapter 3054. Your people from Beauty's pavilion captured my people, and even said that my little beast was from your Beauty's pavilion, and wanted to take it by force. You even gave the order to kill me to silence me. What, can't I kill him? Her clear eyes were cold as she looked at them. Her voice was soft, but it made the hearts of the people in Beauty's pavilion tremble. They could faintly feel the other party's killing intent. Or, if I kill him, you will also issue a kill order to me? If that's the case, I won't introduce you. Her lips curled up as she glanced at them with a smile that wasn't a smile. Hearing this, how could the elders not understand her meaning? The other party had 3 powerful divine beasts here, and their strength was unfathomable. If they offended this person for the sake of a dead person, they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to predict what would happen in the end. Even if they wanted to make a move against this person, they would have to report it to their superiors and have them send someone down. At this moment, they looked at each other and one of them smiled. Young Master is joking. That manager is usually a bit overbearing. If he has offended Young Master in any way, please don't take offense. So you're saying that I can take this person away? Fengjiu raised his eyebrows as he looked at them. Of course, Young Master's person will naturally be taken away by Young Master. The elder said with a smile. So you're saying that these 2 divine beasts didn't come from your Beauty's pavilion? She glanced at them with a smile that wasn't a smile. The elder wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and smiled. Young Master is joking. These divine beasts naturally belong to Young Master. Hearing this, Fengjiu brushed his sleeves and put the swallow cloud back into his space. He turned around and walked out. The 2 divine beasts behind him turned back into 2 kittens and swaggered out while wagging their tails. Qin Xian paused for a moment and glanced at the people from Beauty's pavilion before leaving as well. After they left, the elders looked at each other and said to the cultivators around them, "Clean up and give him a proper burial." Yes. The cultivators responded and carried the corpse away. What do you think? One of the elders asked the other 2. The other 2 stroked their beards and pondered. They said, "This person is definitely not an ordinary person. He has 2 divine beasts and a sacred beast by his side. I'm afraid that he won't be easy to deal with. If we fight against him, I think that he will be a formidable opponent." That may be the case, but this person killed the manager of our Beauty Pavilion. His actions are indeed arrogant. If we don't pursue the matter, wouldn't it be, investigate? How to investigate? Now, who in our building dares to go against him? From the way I see it, it was not easy for us to send this person away. All we have lost is that manager. It is best to keep this matter under wrap. Otherwise, it will not benefit our beauty house at all if this matter blows up. Since that's the case, let's report this matter to the higher-up. As for how to deal with it, that will depend on the arrangements of the higher-ups. What we need to do now is to investigate this person's background before we know what to do next. Several people discussed in the backyard. Not long after, they each took action to arrange things. On the other side, Qin Xian followed the 2 little beasts out of Beauty's pavilion. From time to time, she would look at the figure walking in front of her. She wanted to say something, but she didn't know where to start, so she just followed quietly. Chapter 30-55. Young Master saved me. As long as Young Master doesn't despise Qin Xian for being ugly, Qin Xian is willing to stay by Young Master's side. She looked at the man in green in front of her. This was the first time she said such words to a man. Her ears were faintly burning. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled. Have you thought it through? Yes. Now that she was all alone, where else could she go? Go to that clan? No, she would never step into that clan. She would never acknowledge them. All right. I'll take you to buy 2 sets of clothes to change into, Fengjiu said as he walked forward. Qin Xian was startled for a moment before following behind him. When she arrived at the inn after buying 2 sets of clothes, she was sent to a side room to change. She took the clothes into the room and walked to the prepared hot water. She was in a daze as she sat beside the tub in a daze for a while. Only then did she take off her clothes and soak herself in the water downstairs, Fengjiu was drinking wine and eating appetizers when he saw Wanyan Shursan come in with a few boxes of pastries. Supper? Not bad, I'll accompany you for a drink or two. He placed the pastries on the table and said, Here, have a taste of these pastries. I asked someone and went to the best pastry shop in the city to buy them. Thank you, Fengjiu said with a smile. He first put away the pastries and poured a cup of wine for him. Drink a few cups and rest early. We'll be on our way tomorrow. It had been a few days since they left. She really missed little Hao at home. You're going back? You've settled the matter? You got that woman? Wanyan Shursan asked in surprise. Fengjiu rolled his eyes. What do you mean by got that woman? You make it sound like a bandit. She took a sip of wine and a bite of appetizers before saying, I brought her back. I even killed the manager of beauty restaurant. Cough cough. Wanyan Shursan, who was drinking, choked when he heard this. He patted his chest and coughed twice. He stared at Fengjiu and said, You said you killed the manager of Beauty Pavilion? Yes, Fengjiu replied. You don't have to worry. It's fine. He glared at her and said, Aren't you a little too bold? I already told you that the Beauty Pavilion is very powerful. There are beauty pavilions in every city. You actually went to provoke them? Are you tired of living? Young master. Qin Xin came down from the second floor. She had changed into a blue and white dress. It was simple and elegant. A strand of hair fell down. The scar at the corner of her eye was drawn like a delicate flower. It added a bit of charm to her delicate face. Fengjiu looked at her and nodded with satisfaction. Not bad. You still look pleasing to the eye like this. She nodded and said to her, Sit down and eat with us. Yes. Qin Xin replied and sat down at the table. She saw Wanyan Shursan staring at her, but she didn't look at him. She poured a cup of wine and took a sip. Then she picked up some food and ate. You'll leave tomorrow morning. Remember to get up early and prepare. Fengjiu said. Then, as if she remembered something, she said to Wanyan Shursan, Her name is Qin Xin. Chapter 3056. Seeing Qin sitting with the two of them, she didn't show any signs of uneasiness. Similarly, she sat there quietly, eating and standing. She was so quiet that she looked like a painting. In addition to that, she had an extraordinary appearance. It had to be said that she was very pleasing to the eyes. After a simple introduction, Qin Xin ate some food and went back to her room to rest. Fengjiu and Wanyan Shursan were left drinking. Although her face is disfigured, if it's so well painted, it's still not bad. Aren't you afraid that bringing her around will cause trouble? Wanyan Shursan looked at her, somewhat unable to understand what she was thinking. What did this woman named Qin Xin have that made her go through so much trouble? Fengjiu smiled faintly. I've never been a person who's afraid of trouble. Seeing this, he chuckled. That's true. I guess only you, Fengjiu, would dare to take two mythological beasts to the beauty pavilion and kill the manager of the beauty pavilion. No one would dare to pursue the matter after you brought her back. In the end, it's still the benefits of being strong. Fengjiu sipped his wine and didn't say anything. In this world, wasn't the strong revered? Only when one was strong would no one dare to make a move. The next morning, when the disciples of the immortal sect saw the woman in a blue and white dress appear beside them, they couldn't help but be stunned. This woman was really beautiful, and her temperament was really excellent. Fengjiu glanced at them, the corners of her lips curling up slightly, and she smiled faintly. Beautiful people and beautiful things would always attract people's attention. This was human nature. Let's go, she said and looked at Wanyan Shursan. Yes. The group of people followed them out of the inn and out of the city. A handsome man and a beautiful woman walking together, unsurprisingly, attracted the attention of many people. However, although those people curiously sized them up, no one dared to go up and provoke them. After all, whether it was temperament, clothes, or strength, they were enough to shock others. When they reached the outskirts of the city, Fengjiu waved his hand and a spaceship appeared in front of everyone. The disciples of the immortal sect had already seen her before, so it wasn't strange at all. But this was the first time Qin Xian had seen her. She couldn't help but glance at her a few more times, secretly guessing just what her master's background was. After boarding the spaceship, Wanyan Shursan lazily leaned back and looked at Qin Xian. He smiled and said, "Qin Xian, since we have nothing to do, why don't you play a song for us to listen to?" Qin Xian did not respond. Instead, she looked at Fengjiu and silently asked for her opinion. Fengjiu smiled and took out a zither score from his sleeve. "Play according to this. Don't use spiritual energy." "Yes." Qin Xian took the zither score with both hands and opened it. She couldn't help but be startled. She glanced at Fengjiu and sat cross-legged not far away. She took out her zither, placed it on her knees, and gently plucked the strings. She seemed to be testing the music. The sound of the zither came out intermittently. After a while, the sounds of the zither connected. A beautiful song poured out as her slender and white jade-like fingers gently plucked the strings. Her fingers danced on the zither strings. Her finger technique was skillful and beautiful. The sound of the zither was pleasant and moving. Coupled with her outstanding appearance, the disciples of the immortal sect couldn't help but stare. Only the cold man stared at Fengjiu from time to time, as if he was still guessing her identity. Chapter 3057. Fengjiu, who was resting with her eyes closed, was awakened by the shaking. She opened her eyes and stood up. Using her divine sense, she saw a few dozen men in black standing on a flying ship. They were using the ship to ram into their ship, causing the ship to shake violently. Wanyan Shursan stuck his head out to take a look. He immediately widened his eyes and turned to look at Fengjiu. "Are they here for you again? Tell me, how many people have you offended? How many enemies have you made?" Fengjiu glanced at him and said, "I've just arrived here. How could I have made enemies? Even if there were, they were here for you." Hearing this, Wanyan Shursan smiled embarrassedly. He knew that she was referring to the time when they were surrounded. It was true that they were here for him, but it was hard to say now. "If we keep ramming like this, the ship won't be able to take it," the man surnamed Qin said. He looked at Fengjiu and said, "Senior, why don't we stop the ship? Can you fight?" Fengjiu glanced at him. "Have you recovered from your injuries?" Hearing this, they couldn't help but pause. Their injuries had not fully recovered. If they were to fight, they could only use 70% of their strength at most. "There's a defensive barrier on the ship. Stay here," Fengjiu said. Then, she and Wanyan Shursan looked at each other blindly. The two of them then exited the ship and headed outside. Seeing the two of them come out, the men in black standing on the ship instantly flew out on their swords. The sharp swords in their hands were suffused with bloodthirsty killing intent as they attacked them. The first attack was a killing move, and most of them were aimed at Wanyan Shursan. Seeing this, Wanyan Shursan's expression changed. He cursed loudly. "Which bastard wants me dead this time? He actually hired assassins from the Desperation Tower to ambush me? I told you they were here for you." Fengjiu smiled. She wasn't surprised at all. She hadn't made any enemies here. At most, she had killed a manager in the beauty pavilion, but it was only a manager. The people in the beauty pavilion wouldn't provoke her, who had 3 powerful divine beasts, just for a manager. In the past 2 days, those disciples of the immortal sect had been resting in the inn and had not offended anyone. Qin Xian had no powerful enemies in the city, so naturally, they came for Wanyan Shursan. "Take his head and report back," the leader of the black-clothed men shouted in a deep voice, the long sword in his hand pointed directly at Wanyan Shursan's head. Wanyan Shursan instinctively touched his neck and looked angry. "F***CKU. Don't you know who I am? How dare you attack me? See if I don't destroy you all." He snorted angrily and waved the flag in his hand. Countless spirits flew out and entangled the black-clothed men. He also held a sword in one hand and flew forward to slash down fiercely. Fengjiu, who was about to attack, was stunned for a moment. She looked at him and then smiled. She took a deep breath and rushed forward, breaking the defensive shield of the enemy's ship and directly killing her way into the ship. In an instant, an overwhelming killing intent spread through the air. A strong and fierce bloodthirsty aura wafted in the air, along with the smell of blood. As blood splattered and bodies fell, the scene seemed to be faintly out of control. When the black-clothed men saw that the enemy had defeated them with just 2 people, they became anxious. They stared at the enemy's ship and immediately urged their ship to crash into the enemy's ship. Chapter 30:58. Ah! Several people in the airship cried out in alarm. Their entire bodies fell to the side because the airship flipped over. The 2 women from the immortal sect didn't react in time and hit their heads on a corner of the ship, causing blood to seep out. "Hold on to the ship!" Qin Xian shouted and had the 2 women hold on to the ship. Seeing the men jump out of the airship with swords, she also held on to the ship to prevent her body from being thrown out. The cries of alarm from the airship made Fengjiu frown. She shot the silver needle in her hand towards the black-clothed men. At the same time, her figure flashed, instantly arriving at the side of the airship and stabilizing the ship that was about to flip over. As soon as the immortal sect disciples came out, they were surrounded and attacked by several black-clothed men. Their strength wasn't weak, but their internal injuries hadn't healed. After fighting for a while, their speed gradually slowed down. Seeing a black-clothed man's sword about to stab one of the immortal sect disciples, the man surnamed Qin immediately rushed forward to pull him away. However, he was caught off guard and was slashed. He let out a muffled groan and felt fresh blood gushing out, quickly drenching his robes. He struggled to resist, but his fighting strength grew weaker and weaker with each injury. Seeing the 2 sharp swords about to pierce his heart, he couldn't help but smile bitterly as he couldn't dodge. If he died here, it would really be. Suddenly, his waist was grabbed by someone and he spun around to avoid the fatal attack of the 2 sharp swords. He was startled and turned his head slightly to see a man in green, no, a woman dressed as a man, holding his waist with one hand and bringing him away from danger. While she spun around to avoid danger, she raised her hand and attacked the 2 black-clothed men with a gust of wind. Smelling the woman's fragrance, he inexplicably felt his ears heat up. He said awkwardly, "Let go of me." Fengjiu spun around with him, and a gust of wind rushed out in a circle. The black-clothed men who surrounded them all fell outside. She took a breath and directly sent the male disciple into the airship. Qin Xian, help him treat his wounds. Fengjiu didn't even look at him as he ordered Qin Xian, who was stopping the bleeding of the 2 women in the spaceship. Yes. Qin Xian responded and caught the man brought in by her master. She saw that the man's face was pale, his robe was torn, and the wound was so deep that the bone could be seen. The blood had soaked most of his robe. She immediately helped him lie down on the deck of the boat and pressed the acupoints around his shoulder to take out medicine to stop the bleeding. On the other side, Fengjiu and Wanyan Shisan were working together, and the enemy's numbers were decreasing one by one. Seeing that the situation was not in their favor, the black-clothed man who had been seriously injured by Fengjiu glared fiercely at Fengjiu and made a gesture to retreat. Retreat! The remaining 7 or 8 men in black quickly returned to the spaceship and prepared to escape. However, Fengjiu sneered. "You want to leave? It's too late." How could she let the people who had tried to kill her leave alive? Her figure flashed and a green light flashed. At the same time, the Qingfeng sword appeared and killed several black-clothed men who were trying to escape. The remaining leader of the black-clothed men saw this and immediately took out a teleportation scroll to escape. However, before the scroll could be opened, the sharp sword energy was already in front of him. Xiao. Chapter 30:59. The male disciples who had been injured by the sword and were leaning against the flying ship to catch their breath were terrified by this scene. It was too fast. Her sword was too fast. Her sword was so fast that it was impossible for anyone to dodge it. It was so fast that she had killed someone in one blow. Her opponent did not bleed on the spot but only bled after a few breaths had passed. This person was not lenient when she killed someone. Her technique was more like that of an assassin. After Fengjiu had killed the man, she slapped her head as if she had remembered something. She looked at Wanyan Shi-san with some annoyance. I forgot to leave you alive. They had all been killed. She did not even know who had sent them. If she had known, she would have left one alive. It's alright, it's alright. As long as he's alright, that's all that matters. Wanyan Shi-san smiled sheepishly as he spoke. He did not dare to blame this little girl for not leaving him alive. The people who had been sent today were all first-class assassins. If he had been alone, even if he had not died, he would have lost a layer of skin. However, he did not know who had wanted to kill him. In order to kill him, they had spent so much money and had even asked the Desperation Tower for help? Master, his wounds are too deep. They've injured his main artery, and he can't stop the bleeding. Qin Xian's voice rang out at this moment, carrying a trace of anxiety. Hearing this, Fengjiu quickly returned to the flying ship. She saw a large patch of blood on the ground, and the man with the surname Qin was unconscious. His face was as pale as a sheet and his breathing was very weak. He's actually injured so badly? She was slightly surprised. She did not expect him to be so severely injured. She quickly stepped forward and took out a pill and stuffed it into his mouth. She then used a silver needle to seal the main artery on his shoulder. The others gathered around worriedly. When they saw the deep wound, they could not help but gasp. However, they saw that the blood had stopped flowing out of the wound not long after. Help him bandage his wounds. Use this medicine. Fengjiu handed the medicine to Qin Xian. She then looked at the others. Treat your wounds. As she spoke, she let the flying ship slowly descend. She planned to rest for a while and deal with the corpses at the same time. You keep an eye on them. I'll deal with the corpses and valuables, Wanyan Shi-san said, letting her stay on the ship to look after the disciples. Fengjiu nodded slightly and stayed on the flying ship to keep an eye on the surroundings. She saw that the other injuries were relatively light, and only the male disciple surnamed Qin's injuries were a little more serious. She said, You two carry him inside. Senior brother Qin should be fine, right? He's so heavily injured. He won't die, right? A woman's eyes were red as she asked worriedly. I'll have to lie down for a few days. As for dying, I won't die, Fengjiu said and gestured to the two disciples, who were only slightly injured, to carry the injured into the cabin of the spaceship to rest. Just stay on the ship. Don't run around. Fengjiu instructed and followed behind the two disciples. When they entered the cabin, she asked the two disciples to leave first. She closed the door of the cabin and then untied the bandage to treat the wound on his shoulder. The main artery was cut, and the blood gushed out uncontrollably. The wound was so deep that it would take at least 1 or 2 months for him to recover. Moreover, if he lost too much blood, the wound would worsen. Therefore, it was best to treat him to ease the wound and shorten the recovery time. Chapter 30:60. Seeing the figure inside, he smiled and walked up to knock on the door. Come in. Hearing the sound from inside the room, he pushed the door open and walked in. His gaze swept over the people inside, finally landing on Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mo's. What a coincidence! I didn't expect to meet you here. He walked up with a smile and looked at Fengjiu, saying, To be able to see you here, you should have obtained the 1,000-year black spiritual tendons, right? Seeing that it was him, Fengjiu raised his brows, saying, "It is quite a coincidence. Young Master Tan is also here to eat? I had an appointment with a few friends here. Just now, when the waiter closed the door, I caught a glimpse of Miss Feng here, so I wanted to come in to say hello and ask for a cup of wine." As he spoke with a smile, his gaze moved away from Fengjiu and landed on Xianyuan Mo's, nodding slightly. Xianyuan Mo's gaze swept over him, then moved away. He fetched a wine cup and poured wine, saying, "Please." Fengjiu had mentioned to him before that the news of the 1,000-year black spiritual tendons had come from this person. As a man himself, he understood the look in this man's eyes when he looked at Fengjiu. But, so what? His woman was so outstanding, it was normal for a man to be pleased with her and admire her. Seeing Xianyuan Mo's actions, Tan Haotian's gaze moved slightly. He smiled and raised his wine cup, indicating to the two of them, saying, "You too, this Tan salutes you." Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mo's raised their wine cups, slightly indicating, then downed the wine. After drinking a cup, Tan Haotian put down the wine cup, saying with a smile, "This Tan won't disturb you too. Goodbye." As he spoke, he walked out in a carefree manner. The door closed again. Xianyuan Mo's withdrew his gaze and picked up his chopsticks to pick up some food for her, saying, "Try it." As he spoke, he picked up some other food and placed it in her bowl. "You also eat," Fengjiu said with a smile, also picking up some food for her. The two of them ate, chatted, and looked at the night scenery. On the other side, Ling Hua and the others also raised their wine cups and drank. However, after the meal, Qin Xian sat to the side and took out her zither to liven up the atmosphere. The melodious sound of the zither came from her fingers, echoing in the restaurant. Even the people on the street downstairs could hear the sound of the zither. However, they could only hear the sound, but didn't know where the sound came from, and couldn't see who was playing the zither. As the night deepened, they paid the bill and prepared to leave. At this time, there were no more people on the street. However, as they sat in the spirit deer carriage and slowly headed back to the residence, Fengjiu, who lifted the curtain to get some fresh air, saw a few black figures, seemingly carrying something, moving in the night. She raised her eyebrows, glanced in that direction, and said, "Ing Yi, follow them and take a look." "Yes." Ing Yi, who was in the dark, responded. In a flash, he moved and silently followed behind those people. Xianyuan Mo's, who was sitting in the spirit beast carriage, heard her order to Ing Yi and said, "It's late at night. Why don't I accompany you for a walk?" It was fine to go back directly after eating. Since she was interested in those people, he might as well accompany her to take a look. Chapter 3061. When she came out of the cabin, Wanyan Shursan had already returned. He placed the treasures and the spaceship in front of Fengjiu. "It's all here. You can keep it." Fengjiu didn't refuse and directly put away those things. Then, as if he had thought of something, he said to Qin Xian, "Come here. Master. These magic tools are for you to protect yourself. Also, keep these. In addition, keep these bottles of medicine, just in case." She took out some things and explained to her how to use them. Finally, she handed her a pendant-shaped chain. "This is a spatial magic tool. Wear it around your neck." Looking at those things, Qin Xian's heart moved slightly. She looked at Fengjiu, took the things, and softly thanked him. "Thank you, Master." Several Immortal Sect disciples saw that she gave all those things to the woman and couldn't help but feel a little envious. They didn't know anything else, but they could see that her medicine seemed to be very powerful. It was more powerful than the life-saving pills they had collected. "Let's rest here today. I'll go around to see if there are any wild animals and bring back some food," Wanyan Shursan said as he got off the spaceship and went into the forest. "Follow him," Fengjiu said to the two tiger beastmen who were lying on the side and curled up into a small ball. As soon as he finished speaking, The two tiger beastmen jumped up and followed Wanyan Shursan and left. With the help of the two tiger beastmen, Wanyan Shursan picked up some branches and let the two tiger beastmen catch the wild animals. Not long after, he came back with a pile of branches and lit a fire not far from the spaceship. Fengjiu, I picked up some branches. You can roast the wild animals. I found a stream not far ahead. The water is very clear. I'm going to take a bath and change my clothes. You can deal with these first. If there aren't enough branches, call me. He called for Fengjiu to come down. Got it. Go. Fengjiu responded and walked towards the fire. On the spaceship, the Immortal Sect disciples couldn't help but be stunned after hearing Wanyan Shursan's words. Fengjiu? So, this green-clothed senior was the master of Venerable CK and Venerable Mu Xian? Was she the person that the disciple was talking about? Thinking of this, they couldn't help but feel nervous. The master of Venerable CK and Venerable Mu Xian? She was also an alchemist master. No wonder her medicine was so good. So this was it. Qinshin saw the slight change in their expressions, especially the woman beside her. She asked, Miss Mu, are you not feeling well? Why are you sweating? No, I'm not feeling unwell. I'm just. She was just frightened. This green-robed senior was actually the master of her Mu clan's ancestor? She had been with her ancestor's master all this time? Thinking of this, she wiped the sweat from her forehead and suddenly felt a lot of pressure. The people on the spaceship looked at each other, then walked down to the fire and asked, Senior, let's help too. Is there anything we can do? Do you need help? Fengjiu glanced at them. Yes. The few of them quickly nodded their heads. Hearing this, Fengjiu thought for a moment. Seeing the two tiger beastmen dragging the wild animals back, he smiled and said, Then help me clean up the wild animals. Okay. They quickly rolled up their sleeves and got ready to work. Chapter 3062. Qin Xian was stunned by Fengjiu's words. Although she found it strange, she still nodded. She walked to the side and sat down to practice with her zither. These disciples were all core disciples of the Immortal Sect and were born in aristocratic families. But here, in front of Fengjiu, they didn't dare to put on airs and could only do what they were supposed to do. Fengjiu was in charge of roasting the meat while the others helped. After a while, the aroma of the meat wafted through the air, making the disciples swallow their saliva. I smelled the aroma from a long distance away. Wanyan Shursan laughed and walked over. I caught a few fish downstream and cleaned them. Come, let's roast them together. Put the fish on the branch. Fengjiu handed him the branch. He added wine and spices to the roasted meat and cut a piece to taste it. Then he said to them, It's ready to eat. Cut it yourself. As he spoke, he called Qin Xian over to eat. As soon as she finished speaking, the disciples immediately began to eat. They also roasted the meat themselves outside, but it didn't taste as good as hers. The tiredness of the day and the thrill of being ambushed were all relieved at this moment. After eating, Fengjiu returned to the spaceship and sat cross-legged to cultivate. The disciples outside the spaceship sat around the fire and chatted with Wanyan Shursan. Senior Wanyan, so she is the master of Venerable CK and Venerable Mu Xian. Wanyan Shursan glanced at them. You just found out? We only found out when you called out her name. If you didn't say it, who would believe that she was a woman? Moreover, she is the master of two masters at the peak of the divine realm. As they talked, Qin Xian was stunned when she heard this. She looked at Wanyan Shursan and asked hesitantly, Master is a woman? She had always thought that the master was a man. She is a woman. Wanyan Shursan took a bite of the meat and said to her, She is also a very beautiful woman. Qin Xian was stunned for a moment and then nodded. It turned out to be a woman. Although he did not show it on his face, there was still a trace of disappointment in his heart. She thought that her master was a man, and she had always thought of her master as a man. She didn't expect her master to be a woman. For a woman, it was natural for her to have some thoughts about a man who had saved her and treated her differently. Although she didn't dare to have any thoughts about her master, but in her heart, that elegant young master in green had long been reflected in her heart. Wanyan Shur-san looked at her in a daze and couldn't help laughing. You secretly like her in your heart? Are you surprised to learn that she's a woman? No, Chin Exan said hurriedly. Heh, you're just giving yourself away. He glanced at her and said, but it's normal. Your master is like a butterfly, attracting bees and butterflies everywhere. It's understandable that you secretly like her. After all, a hero who saves a beauty can always win the beauty's heart. When the people next to him heard this, they couldn't help but smile. They chatted around the fire until it was late at night, and then they went back to the boat to rest. The next morning, after resting, they continued their journey in the direction of Sifong City. Chapter 3063. When they heard this, they awkwardly replied, Yes, we will remember. When they arrived at the Immortal Sex entrance, the flying boat stopped. Two of them went in to help the man surnamed Chin out. After 2 or 3 days of recuperation, although his body had not recovered, his complexion was much better than before. Many thanks to the 2 seniors for this trip. The disciples bowed to the 2. There's no need to thank us. It's just a business transaction. Go in. As Fengju spoke, she waved her hand and put away the flying boat. Riding her sword, she brought Wanyan Shur-san and Chin Exan towards Sifong City. When they arrived at the Feng Manor's entrance, they could not help but be slightly surprised. They saw that there were quite a few people lined up in front of the Feng Manor's entrance. Also, looking at their clothes and cultivation, they were not normal commoners. They could not help but feel strange. What was going on? This is your manor? Why are there so many people outside? Wanyan Shur-san glanced over and looked at the line of people. I don't know. Fengju shook her head. She had just returned from outside. How could she know what was going on? I'll go ask. Wanyan Shur-san spoke and walked forward to ask the people behind her. Not long later, she returned and looked at Fengju with a strange expression, saying, Some have come to ask for pills, some have come to ask for medicine, and some have come to ask for treatment. He looked at her strangely and said, Your manor is about to become a medical clinic. Why is it that there are people asking for everything? Fengju's eyes flickered when she heard this and said, Let's go through the back door. As she spoke, she led them to the back door. Seeing that there was a formation set up at the back door, and it was impossible to see where the door was from the outside, he could not help but feel surprised. You actually set up a formation here? Is this even possible? Fengju led them inside and said, Why not? It's your own home. You can set it up however you want. My manor has formations and barriers everywhere. Don't run around when you're inside. I know. Wanyan Shur-san complied and followed her inside. However, he saw that there was not even half a guard in this huge mansion. How come I don't even see a single guard? He asked. I don't need guards here. As she spoke, a bald old man walked over. He glanced at them, then looked at Fengju and grinned. I was wondering who it was. It turns out that Miss has returned. He is the gatekeeper of my residence, Elder May. Fengju said to the 2 people, and then said to Elder May, This is Wanyan Shur-san, and this is Chin Exan. Wanyan Shur-san is a guest, and Chin Exan will be a member of the mansion from now on. Oh, Old May replied and nodded before giving the 2 of them a once-over. How has the family been while I was gone? She asked as she walked inside. It's all right. There are people coming to visit every day. Look, there's even a line outside the door. We can't chase them away even if we want to. Meija followed beside her and said, Du Fan and the others came back after completing their mission yesterday. They knew that Miss wasn't here, so they stayed in the mansion. Seeing the two of them walking inside, Wanyan Shan could not help but feel surprised. Fengjiu was one thing, but who was this bald old man guarding the door? How come he could not see through his strength? Ruo Da's mansion did not have many guards, and they came in through the back door without making any noise. How did this old man know that someone came in through the back door? Not simple, not simple. Chapter 3064. Fengjiu smiled and nodded. I just arrived. Call the people in the mansion to the main hall. Yes, he answered. When he turned around, his eyes seemed to inadvertently sweep past Yan Shan and Qin Xian. This man is also very good-looking and has an extraordinary temperament. People who don't know him would definitely think that he's the son of an aristocratic family. I didn't expect him to be your subordinate. Wanyan Shan clicked his tongue as he stared at Ling Hua's departing figure. Fengjiu smiled and walked inside. The people under me are all good-looking. When they go out, they are all young masters of aristocratic families. This is not strange. They went to the front hall. Fengjiu sat on the main seat, Wanyan Shan sat on the lower left, and Qin Xian stood beside Fengjiu. After serving the tea, the servant respectfully retreated. Not long after, Ling Shuang carried the child into the hall. Master! She bowed and called out. Then, she looked at the person sitting in the main seat. At the same time, her eyes fell on Qin Xian and sized her up. Ya. Little Howard saw Fengjiu waving his hands excitedly. Even though her face was still disguised, that familiar aura still made him want to lean forward. Fengjiu put down the teacup in his hand and stood up. He walked forward with a smile on his face. Little Howard, did you miss your mother? As he spoke, he reached out and hugged him. Nyang nyang, nyang 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 nyang. The little fellow imitated her voice and called out. He didn't know how to call out Nyang Qin, so he could only vaguely call out Nyang Nyang Fengjiu. He looked at her with sparkling eyes and saliva dripped from the corner of his mouth as he moved closer to Fengjiu's face. Even if it was a muffled voice, Fengjiu's eyes lit up when he heard it. My son can say Mom now. How obedient. She cupped his chubby little face and kissed it. Wanyan Shan and Qin were stunned as they looked at her with a joyful expression. Fine. Along the way they saw Fengjiu. Sometimes she was cold, sometimes she was evil, and sometimes she was casual and lazy. However, she always had a noble aura, the aura of an expert, and an aura that made people not dare to be too presumptuous in front of her. However, when they arrived at the residence, they saw that she was smiling like a flower. She was very relaxed, which was quite different from when she was outside. Moreover, what surprised them the most was that she already had a child of this age. Your son? Wanyan Shan was stunned. He pointed at the child she was playing with and asked. Yes, my son, Xianyuan Hao. She grabbed the child's hand and waved at Wanyan Shan. Wanyan Shan stared at her from head to toe. His expression was strange and certain. He's not your biological child. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled slightly. Hao was adopted by me. Except for the fact that he didn't come from my stomach, everything else is the same. I treat him as my own. Come, let me hug him. He rubbed his hands and reached for the child. Look at this chubby boy. His facial features are exquisite and outstanding. When he grows up, he will definitely be a handsome man who will charm thousands of girls. Hearing this, Fengjiu laughed and said proudly, Of course, can my son be bad? When the little fellow saw Wanyan Shan reaching out to hug him, he waved his hand away in disgust and hid in Fengjiu's arms. His other hand was still tightly grasping Fengjiu's clothes. Chapter 3065. Master! Master, you're back! Master! One by one, they came in from outside and called out excitedly while sizing up the other two people in the hall. Introduce yourselves. Feng Jiu didn't help them introduce themselves. Instead, he was playing with the child while looking at them calmly. Introduce themselves? Everyone was stunned for a moment. Then Leng Hua smiled gently and introduced himself. I'm Leng Hua, the housekeeper of the mansion. I'm Du Fan, good at formations. I'm Fan Lin, an alchemist and a doctor. They introduced themselves one by one and introduced themselves. When they were done, they looked at Wanyan Shursan and Qin Xen. I'm Qin Xen. Master saved me on the way here. I'm not good at anything, but I'm good at playing the zither, she said softly. Compared to them, she was so ordinary and unremarkable. Moreover, her face was, thinking of this, she couldn't help but lower her eyes. I'm Wanyan Shursan, the 13th uncle of your master's sworn sister. You can call me Wanyan. He paused, touched his chin and thought for a while. Then, he smiled and said, Call me 13th Master. 13th Master. When everyone heard that he was the 13th uncle of their master's sworn sister, they naturally didn't dare to neglect him. Moreover, he was brought back to the mansion by their master, so he must have some status. Qin Xian, since you're here, just treat this place as your home. You'll slowly get used to it. I'll take you to choose a courtyard later. Leng Hua said gently. Okay, thank you. Qin Xian nodded slightly and smiled. Leng Hua, I'll leave them to you. I'll go back to the courtyard first. Come find me later. Feng Jiu stood up with the child in his arms, and said to Leng Hua. Yes, master. Don't worry. Leng Hua replied. All right, I'll take this opportunity to visit your residence. Wanyan Shursan said excitedly. Then, as if he had thought of something, he said, Wait, where's your man? Why don't I see him? It was no wonder that he felt like something was missing for most of the day. After thinking for a while, he remembered that the male master of the manor hadn't appeared. If the child's name was Xianyuan Hao, then her husband's surname was Xianyuan? Why didn't I see anyone? She wondered what kind of man could tame a woman like Feng Jiu. He's in seclusion and hasn't come out yet. Feng Jiu said with a smile, If you have the chance in the future, come visit us more often. You will naturally have the chance to meet him. That's for sure. Not knowing that your home is here is one thing. Now that I know, I'll definitely drop by often in the future. He grinned. Just thinking about it made him happy. Feng Jiu asked Ling Shuang to follow him, and carried the child back to the courtyard. Ling Hua took Wanyan Shursan and Qin Xian to look around the manor. He also asked someone to tell the kitchen to prepare food. After returning to the courtyard, Feng Jiu asked someone to prepare warm water for a bath. She took the child into the bath with her. The two of them played in the tub for a while before getting up. She handed the child to Ling Shuang. After a while, she came out of her room. She changed into a red dress and restored her appearance. She was in such high spirits that people couldn't take their eyes off her. Ma, nyang nyang. The little fellow happily walked towards Feng Jiu with his short legs. However, his legs were trembling. After taking 2 steps, he lost his balance and fell forward. Chapter 3066. The child's innocent laughter echoed in the courtyard, making those who heard it smile uncontrollably. Feng Jiu played with Hao for a while, then carried him to Leng Shuang. Master. Leng Hua's voice came from outside the courtyard. Feng Jiu looked over and saw him walk in. She smiled and lay down on the soft couch at the side, asking, What's the matter with those people outside the residence? Why did they come to our residence to ask for medicine? The news that Master is a venerated pill master has spread, so those people came here to ask for medicine. I told them to leave several times, but they didn't listen. Leng Hua was also quite helpless about this matter. The news must have come from the immortal sect. Well, since it's spread, then let's use it to do something. She lay on the soft couch and looked at the sky with narrowed eyes. Hearing this, Leng Hua asked, Master plans to do this as a business? Feng Jiu's lips curved. That's right, I probably won't be going out for a while. Since that's the case, then I'll just treat it as a practice. She paused, then instructed. Go and record their requests and give them to me. Yes, he responded. Seeing that she had nothing else to say, he left. Ling Shuang, what do you think of Qin Xin? Fengjiu looked at Ling Shuang and asked with a smile. Master's taste must be good. She had always believed in her master, unconditionally. Whether it was the things her master did or the people she brought back, there must be a reason behind it. Don't just stand there, sit. Seeing that she was still standing, Fengjiu motioned for her to sit. Seeing this, Ling Shuang walked to the table and sat down, holding little Hao who was gradually dozing off in his arms. Her zither skills are quite good, I'm preparing to. She chatted with Ling Shuang in the courtyard, telling him her plans. Although there were many people by her side and she trusted them, Ling Shuang and Ling Hua, this pair of brother and sister, were different in her heart. No matter how many people appeared by her side, they could not replace the two of them in her heart. They also seemed to know that they would only secretly pay attention to the people she took in, observing their words and actions, because they were worried that those people would hurt her. However, even if they were worried, they trusted her taste because they had never made a mistake. That night, the people of the Feng residence sat around the table filled with food and wine. They ate, drank, and chatted, especially Wanyan Shursan, who was like a curious child, asking strange questions from time to time. Fengjiu, why is this residence? Why is it not the Xianyuan manor? Fengjiu, why did Xianyuan go into seclusion so easily? How can he calm down and go into seclusion? Fengjiu, is his strength stronger than yours? How did you two meet? Was he the one who chased you first? Or did you fall in love with him first? He must be a handsome man, right? Otherwise, you definitely wouldn't like him. Ha ha ha, does he have many suitors around him? Don't you need to help him get rid of them? The lively night ended with Wanyan Shursan's curious gossip. As the night deepened, everyone returned to their own courtyards to rest. When Feng Nine returned to her room, slightly drunk, she sensed the presence of another person as soon as she entered the room. Chapter 3067. Xianyuan Mose flipped through the book in his hand. His deep gaze carried a trace of doting as he looked at her. His deep voice was very seductive in the night. If you didn't come out of seclusion, then who is the person warming your bed right now? I just came back today. I asked Ling Hua and the others, but they said you still haven't come out of seclusion. She walked forward with a smile, took off her coat and boots, and directly threw herself on top of him. You reek of alcohol, Xianyuan Mose said, but still closed the book in his hand and put it aside. He reached out and hugged her waist. I only drank a little wine. It's not as bad as the smell of alcohol. She smiled and her eyes narrowed. Her head arched in his embrace, and she found a comfortable position. Just like that, she laid on top of him with the quilt between them. She leaned on his chest. Since you came out of seclusion, why didn't you come out to meet everyone? It's too troublesome, Xianyuan Mose said. In his opinion, people who had nothing to do with her were all troublesome. I brought back a man and a woman. The man is my sister's 13th uncle. He's called Wanyan Shursan. The woman is called Qin Xin. I saved her. She rubbed against his chest like a kitten and said, I went out this time and brought back 2 little things for you. She flicked her sleeves and 2 tiger beasts came out of the space. They obediently squatted in front of the bed and looked at the 2 people lying on the bed together. Even the 2 beasts felt a little shy when they saw them. Master, your position is wrong. It should be the man on top and the woman below, not the woman on top and the man below. The male tiger kindly reminded. Fengjiu heard this and several black lines appeared on his forehead. However, Xianyuan Mose heard this and smiled. He glanced at the tiger beasts and said, We like this position. Fengjiu felt embarrassed when he heard this. Was it really okay to talk about this in front of 2 tiger beasts? She coughed softly and said to Xianyuan Mose, "These 2 tiger beasts have reached the level of mythological beasts. I remembered that you said last time that it would be best to get 2 mighty beasts to guard the door, so when I saw these 2 tiger beasts, I felt that they were quite suitable and brought them back." Not bad. Xianyuan Mose nodded and glanced at the 2 tiger beasts who were looking at them. "What are you still squatting here for? Go stand guard outside the manor's gate. From today onwards, you will be responsible for guarding the Feng manor's gate." As soon as these words were spoken, the 2 tiger beasts clearly felt a pressure so strong that it made them tremble, pressing down on them. They didn't dare to say another word as they responded and left the room, heading towards the door. "Adieu, I missed you." As Xianyuan Mose spoke, he leaned over and kissed her moist lip. Fengjiu was lying on top of him. Hearing this, she began to laugh. Reaching out, she wrapped her arms around his neck and passionately responded to his kiss. Only when she was out of breath did Xianyuan Mose let go of her. Taking a deep breath, he slowly suppressed the flames that had surged through his body. Just as he was about to speak, Fengjiu suddenly jumped up from his body. "Your veins have been damaged?" Fengjiu's expression changed slightly. Her hand was already on his pulse. Just now, she had faintly sensed that the aura in his body was a bit different. However, she never thought that it would be his veins that had been damaged. Seeing her nervous appearance, Xianyuan Mose chuckled and comforted her. "Don't worry. I was just about to talk to you about this." Chapter 3068. There was an accident when I was cultivating, he said simply, not wanting her to worry too much. "It's just that my meridians are damaged. My strength has dropped to 50% because of the damage to my meridians. Other than that, there's no big problem." "That's not a big problem?" She glared at him and said worriedly, "When an enlightened master is injured, it can't be treated by ordinary pills. Moreover, the damage to your meridians is not a small problem. Also, your strength has dropped to 50% because of the damage to your meridians. This is very dangerous for you, do you know that?" As she spoke, she patted her face, dispelling the last trace of drunkenness. Then, she sat beside him and said, "You must have eaten the pill, but you can't see the effect. How about this? I'll try to repair it for you first. If it doesn't work, I'll think of something else." "With the green lotus life force in your body?" Xianyuan Mose's expression turned serious. He said in a low voice, "You've used too much life force. It's also taxing on you. Moreover, your body, it's fine. Don't talk. Sit properly." She gestured for him to sit cross-legged with his back facing her. Jiu, as soon as he spoke, he saw that she had already used her hands to apply spiritual qi to his back. Seeing this, he sighed softly and focused his mind to feel the life force. A green qi gradually spread out from Fengjiu's palms. That qi passed through his body and into Xianyuan Mose's body, repairing his damaged meridians bit by bit. Using life force to repair wounds and internal injuries had a very high chance of recovery. However, for an enlightened master, what kind of effect would it have? The higher one's strength, the more resilient their meridians would be. It would be even harder to repair them. However, right now, she could only use all her strength to help him repair it. Because if his meridians were damaged for a long time, even if they could be repaired in the future, they would not be able to reach their initial peak. The life force of the green lotus flowed through his body, making him feel relaxed all over. He could feel the powerful aura of the spiritual energy. However, as the life force of the green lotus flowed through his body, he could feel that her aura was gradually becoming unstable. "Jiu, that's enough," he said, trying to stop her. "Don't talk." As Fengjiu spoke, the sweat on his forehead slid down his cheek. His hands were pressed tightly against Chu Li's back, continuously transferring the life force of the green lotus to him. Xianyuan Mose wanted to push her away, but he was afraid that he would hurt her. He was afraid that she would not be able to bear it, so he said, "Adieu, I'm much better now. That's enough. You can stop now." Adieu. Fengjiu did not pay any attention to him. Instead, he concentrated on transferring the life force of the green lotus until his body could no longer take it. Only then did his hands loosen, and he collapsed onto the bed in exhaustion. In that instant, Xianyuan Mose turned around and caught her, allowing her to lean into his embrace. Looking at her pale complexion and the sweat on her forehead, he couldn't help but gently caress her face with heartache. "Ajiu, why must you do this? How can your body withstand transferring so much life force to me? How do you feel? How much of your strength have you recovered?" Fengjiu asked in a weak voice. His entire body was limp, and he couldn't even lift his hand. "All right, you don't have to worry. Tell me the truth, I have to know." Fengjiu looked at him and said. Seeing this, Xianyuan Mose sighed softly. 70%. Chapter 3069. Don't think too much. Let's sleep. He hugged her as they fell onto the big bed and hugged her. Because she had used up too much spiritual power and the life force of the green lotus, she was very tired. Smelling the familiar scent and hugging the person who made her feel at ease, she fell into a deep sleep. The next afternoon when Ling Hua came over and saw that his master was still asleep, he couldn't help but feel strange. Usually, his master would be awake at this time. Why wasn't there any movement today? He was a little worried and was about to knock on the door. However, at this time, he saw the door open. The Yama Lord, who was supposed to be in seclusion, walked out. "Yama Lord." Ling Hua was slightly surprised. Wasn't the Yama Lord supposed to be in seclusion? "Why, do you need something from her?" Xianyuan Mose asked, walking to the courtyard and sitting down. Hui Lang appeared out of nowhere and placed a cup of tea on the table. Then, he stood quietly to the side. Ling Hua glanced at Hui Lang, then respectfully said to Xianyuan Mose, "Master asked me to record the requests of the people outside the residence yesterday. I thought that Master should be awake by now, so I brought the records over for Master to take a look." When the people outside the residence heard the news, they were all very happy. Even though they knew that not everyone's request would be satisfied, they still had a trace of anticipation. "Let me see it," Xianyuan Mose said. "Yes," Ling Hua replied, then took out a book and handed it over with both hands. Xianyuan Mose took the book and placed it on the table. He first picked up his tea and took a sip, then flipped open the book to look at it. Some of the requests were for medicinal pills, some were for good medicine, and some were for treating illnesses. What's more, they were the ones who provided the medicine, and they would be paid afterwards. After flipping through the recorded requests, he estimated that these things shouldn't be too difficult for Fengjiu. Then, he said, "You can leave. I'll bring it to her when she wakes up." "Yes," Ling Hua responded. He bowed and left. It was rare for Hui Lang to be quiet. He stood aside without saying anything. Xianyuan Mose didn't say anything either. As time passed, Fengjiu lazily came out of the room when the sun was setting. "Awake? Come and eat something." Xianyuan Mose chuckled as he looked at the Fengjiu walking out. At this moment, the table was already filled with cooked porridge and stir-fried side dishes. It was simple and light. "Why are you up so early? Why don't you rest for a while?" Fengjiu walked over and sat down at the table. "I can't sleep," he said as he scooped a bowl of porridge for her. "How do you feel today? Give me your hand and I'll check your pulse again," Fengjiu said, letting him take her hand out to check her pulse. "Much better. You don't have to worry." He curled his lips into a smile. He didn't give her his hand, but stuffed the spoon into her hand. "Hurry up and eat. We'll talk after you finish eating. Otherwise, the porridge and side dishes will get cold." Seeing this, Fengjiu glanced at her, then nodded. "Let's finish eating first." There was no rush. Moreover, He said last night that he had recovered 70% of his strength. It was a good thing. The two of them were like an old married couple who had been in love for many years. They ate quietly, and the two of them helped each other with food from time to time. At the dining table, there was a kind of warmth and tacit understanding between the two of them. Chapter 3070. What are you doing here? Hui Lang asked in a low voice. He glanced into the courtyard and saw that his master and the ghost doctor were talking, so he followed Ling Hua to the side. Isn't the Yama Lord in seclusion? Why did he suddenly come out? Ling Hua asked. Logically speaking, the Yama Lord shouldn't have come out during this period of time, but he did. Could it be that he had encountered some problems in his cultivation? Master had an accident when he was cultivating, and his meridians were damaged due to the backlash. He said not to tell anyone. Just keep it to yourself and don't tell anyone else, Hui Lang said in a low voice. Ling Hua was slightly surprised, but he wasn't surprised. Someone who should have been in seclusion had come out. He thought that something must have happened. Sure enough, after asking, he found out that the Yama Lord had an accident when he was cultivating, and his meridians were damaged? If an enlightened master's meridians were damaged, it would be very difficult for them to recover. If it was delayed for too long, he was afraid, I have to stay by master's side for this period of time. Go to the front later and tell Du Fan and the others that I won't be participating in any of the mercenary missions for now. He had to stay by master's side, so he didn't have to worry about anything else for now. Ling Hua nodded. I know, I'll tell them later. As soon as his voice fell, he patted Ling Hua's shoulder and turned to leave. In the courtyard, Feng Jiu said to Xianyuan Mose, don't cultivate for now. Relax. I'll research and see if there are any pills that can repair your meridians. What about the 9 transformations golden pill? Xianyuan Mose asked. If it works, can't I just use the 9 transformations golden pill? The 9 transformations golden pill isn't a panacea. Feng Jiu shook his head and smiled. It can revive a person who has just died, and it can also heal extremely serious internal injuries. However, when it comes to repairing the meridians of an Empyrean god, it still doesn't have a very obvious effect. After all, even the Green Lotus life force can only help you recover to 70% of your strength. She lightly sighed and said, the best medicine to repair the meridians for a strong person is the 1,000-year black spirit tendons. If you use it to refine a medicinal pill, not only will it allow your damaged meridians to recover, the tenacity of your meridians will also increase by another level. However, the 1,000-year black spirit tendons are very hard to find. I will go to the city's auction house to see if there is any news of the black spirit tendons. I'll go with you, he said. She shook her head. No need, you can stay at home. I'll be right back. Hearing that, Xianyuan Mose didn't say anything more. No one in Square City could hurt her, so he would let her go by herself. Thus, after chatting with him for a while, Feng Jiu went outside, while Xianyuan Mose went ahead. A few people came to the mansion. Although he had heard about them from Ying Yi, he hadn't seen them yet, so he decided to go take a look. The purple gold spirit deer carriage was pulled out. Ling Hua drove the spirit deer carriage with Feng Jiu outside the mansion. As the door opened, the people waiting outside the mansion gathered one by one. However, before they could get close, the purple gold spirit deer carriage swept past them and disappeared into the distance in the blink of an eye. The purple gold spirit deer carriage. That person came out. I heard that person has the appearance of an immortal, but I haven't seen her yet. That young Master Feng, no, young Miss Feng, no, she should be called Venerable. It is said that she likes red clothes, and her appearance is devastatingly beautiful, unparalleled. I really hope I can ask for medicinal pills from her. I hope she can treat my father's illness. Chapter 3071. Right now, her medicine is being sold outside. There is a market but no price. Otherwise, why would there be so many people waiting here every day? Looking at the entire city, there are not many people who have the face to enter the Feng Manor. The people gathered outside were all discussing this. They were waiting for an opportunity to obtain the medicine. On the other side, the spirit deer carriage stopped in front of the auction house's entrance. Ling Hua got out of the carriage and said, "Master, I will accompany you inside." "That's fine." Fengjiu nodded and had him hand the carriage over to the auction house's people. The auction house's people recognized them. Upon seeing Fengjiu, they immediately went to welcome them. "Young Miss Feng has come. Please come in." They then had someone lead the carriage to the side, while someone else quickly went to inform their master. Hearing that Fengjiu had come, the auction house's owner, Tan Haotian, walked out from inside and personally welcomed them. Seeing the red-clothed Fengjiu, he revealed a smile. As the saying goes, one does not visit a temple without a cause. "Could it be that you have come for some reason? I want to ask, does your auction house have 1,000-year black spiritual tendons?" "Oh!" Hearing this, Tan Haotian's eyes slightly flashed, and he looked her over before saying, "Let's go upstairs and talk, please." Saying this, he gestured for them to enter. Seeing this, Fengjiu followed him into the building's side room. Once inside, tea and snacks were brought out. Tan Haotian sat at the table and personally poured tea for Fengjiu. Glancing at her, he said, "The 1,000-year black spiritual tendons are the main medicine for repairing veins. I see that your complexion is the same as before, and it doesn't seem like your veins have been damaged. Why would you want this medicine?" Fengjiu picked up the tea and took a sip, calmly saying, "When your auction house's customers buy things, could it be that they ask for their use?" "Haha, of course not. I only asked a few questions because I care about you." He smiled, not caring that Ling Hua, who was behind Fengjiu, was looking at him. Hearing this, Fengjiu put down his teacup and picked up a piece of cake to eat. He glanced at him indifferently and said, "I only care if you have the 1,000-year black spirit tendons here." "No." He shook his head and said with a smile, "What kind of precious spirit medicine is the black spirit tendon? How could they be seen so often? Not to mention that I don't have it here. The other cities and towns, and even the 4 great immortal sects don't have it." Hearing this, Fengjiu's brows furrowed and his expression froze. She had originally thought that if she couldn't find it here, she would go somewhere else and search for it in the 4 great immortal sects. However, after hearing what he said, it seemed that the 1,000-year-old black spirit tendons were indeed extremely difficult to find. If that was the case, then it would truly be troublesome. "Do you really need this spiritual medicine?" Seeing her expression, he was a little surprised. "If I didn't need it, why would I come here?" Wasn't this a useless question? Tan Haotian paused, as if he was thinking of something. "Do you know where it can be found?" Fengjiu saw his expression and asked. He glanced at Fengjiu and said, "I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. I don't know if it's true or not." Seeing that she kept staring at him, he sighed softly and said, "Inside the spirit void's secret domain, there are spirit medicines everywhere. However, the more precious the spirit medicines are, the stronger the guardian beast. In addition, the spirit void's secret domain is the cultivation secret domain of the 4 great immortal sects. Unless one is a disciple of the 4 great immortal sects, no one can enter." You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.